right, now that I've shown you all the selection tricks that you need to get through any kind of Photoshop file, now you're going to put them to use and show me what you've really learned. So here in Photoshop, the final project for Chapter 5 is what I call a Melonhead project. So in order to do that, you've got a lot of files. So I'm going to go to File menu, Browse in Bridge. I want to use Adobe Bridge to look at a lot of files. Okay, so we'll let that start up. On my desktop, I'm going to scroll down to my Orange Coast files here. And let's see, I'll go to my week 3 files. There's my chapter 5. And right here, every time I double click a folder, I'm looking inside the folder. I'm going to double click Melonhead Add. And this is the beginning of your ad. Okay, I've set it up with a couple of lines of text. You don't have to use this background. You can change that to whatever you want. But I'm going to get you started, and then the rest is going to be up to you. Show me how creative you can be. So here's what you've got. A few years ago, there was a place up in the Northwest called Calgary Farms Market, or Calgary Farmers Market. And they did a series of ads where they did these Photoshop ads. So all summer long, representing the heat. There's a watermelon that's now wearing a bathing suit, or orange juice becomes a container. Here's another fruit that becomes a bikini top, or sunglasses, depending on how you look at it. But they were doing these Photoshop manipulations of editable items. Edible items. Your items will be editable in Photoshop, but these are edible items. So I'm an art major, not an English major. Okay. So right up here, I'm going to come back to chapter 5. This is the beginning of my ad, so I'm going to double click on it. I'm going to start with this. Okay, I go File, Browse in Bridge to come back to Adobe Bridge, and I want this logo somewhere in my ad. So I'm going to double click. Now, like I showed you before, you can take your magic wand, make sure contiguous is turned on. I'm going to click on the white wall, hold Shift to add the empty space in the loop of the E. I want to select that white as well. And now the problem is I have selected all the white in this photo. I want the reverse of that. I don't want to work on the white wall. I want the red logo. So sometimes in Photoshop, it's easier to select what's not there, the white wall. Then to turn your selection inside out, I go to Select Menu, Inverse, or Command-Shift-I. What that's going to do is turn my selection inside out. So now instead of the white wall, I go to my Move tool and I have the logo. I drag it all the way up, wait a second, drop it back in. I'll put it right there for now. It can go anywhere you want. This is going to be your advertisement. I'm just going to put it there for time's sake. I come back up here. I don't need that anymore, so I'll close it. And now I go to File, Browse in Bridge again. Okay, if it doesn't come up for some reason, I'll click on BR at the bottom of my screen there. Here are your folders of shapes. So I have a folder right here, number 4, head shapes. Okay, you can cut out one of these pairs as a head. This could be the shape of a character's head. This could be whatever you want. These are a couple of different objects that can be turned into the head of a character and put 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth. Here's folder number 5. You got baby carrots, baby tomatoes, bananas, blueberries, lemons, radishes, strawberries. Notice how they're on clean, simple backgrounds. Okay, you've got additional pieces, like if you wanted to cut out one little potato or any one of these other objects from another farmer's market. Got a lot of objects there. And I took pictures from the web, like different hats that you could put on your character. This could become an eyeball and put a blueberry in the middle for an eye. This could become a nose if you flip it upside down. You've got a lot of possibilities with the objects that I've given you. Okay, so what do I do with all those objects? Well, here are some examples of what people have done before with those fruits and vegetables. Okay, this person turned her into an opera singer. Her blueberry top, all those little copies of the melon over and over and over and over again. There's a bunch of roses. There's a baby tomato that's been duplicated. There's all kinds of objects there. Here's one where they put a whole background in. Found a bunch of grapes that I didn't provide. So if you find other fruit pieces that you want to incorporate, just find a good quality image on Google. That's fine. Throw in a background from Google. I'm fine with that too. They blew up the size of the type. They added their own text and broke it up here. There's another one where they turn little carrot slices into arms. Did the melon like a little Buddha head. They looked online and chose rat fink and then manipulated a couple of avocados and melons and blueberries and candy corns to create this character. There's multiple copies of the melon to create this muscle figure on the beach, like his little Speedos there. There's one I did as a little demo in class. Okay, put the hat on the character, put a lemon and then a blueberry on top of that, and all kinds of things are possible. Then you can go to the extreme and really do some detail work. They base it off Bert and Ernie. There's a Ninja Turtle made of cucumbers and pickles and pears and pineapples. There's Yoshi, so I'm going to do a demo on Yoshi in a minute. And there's just a happy little bird with stalks from the radish, the leaves from the pineapple, a couple of bananas, a couple of chili peppers there, a walnut, some blueberries. You get the idea. You can replace the background with whatever you want. Come up with whatever character you want. I want you to be creative. Anything goes here. Just come up with something interesting. Show me that you really can think outside of the box. Okay? Like Ratfink or Bert and Ernie or Yoshi. So I'm going to go off of Yoshi and just show you how you can start this process. Like I said, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm going to start it for you. I want to see what you can come up with. So I'm going to click back here on Photoshop and I'm going to go to Safari. Okay, I'll go into my Google here. We'll just pull this out and resize it here. I'll go into Google. I'll click on images and I'm going to type in Mario Bros. Yoshi. All right, there we go, Yoshi. I'm going to pick this one right here. That's a decent image right there. Okay, if I want to download an image, I'm going to hold my Control key on my keyboard. Click and say open the image in a new tab. There's the new tab right up there so I can see the image. I'm going to drag it and drop it right onto the PS. I drag it all the way to the bottom and then let go of my mouse and I can drag it right into Photoshop. I can do that because I'm using Safari. If I'm using Firefox or Google Chrome, I have to download it to my desktop and then drag it into Photoshop. So that's why I use Safari. Just drag and drop right onto the PS icon. So now I'm going to take this guy, drag him up, drop him in, and notice he doesn't go. Okay, that is because this image was made as a PNG file. It's an index color mode. Index color mode from the web does not work with my RGB file. So if that ever happens, you can just take an image, change the image mode to match your file. It's RGB. Now I drag it up and drop it in. Okay, I want him to be a little bit bigger than that. So Command T and I drag a corner. I want him sitting right about here. That's going to be pretty good right there. I'll hit return. Now obviously he's kind of stomping on the logo, so I'll just click and drag that logo out of the way for now. I might move it up here later on, but we'll just tuck it down there. And I want to work on top of Yoshi here. So in order for me to see my work more clearly, I'm going to adjust the opacity of his layer and drag it down, kind of like a ghosted image that I can work on top of. So I don't need this guy up here anymore. Let's close it up. Don't need to save it. And I'm going to work on his nose. So I'm going to zoom in on that nose for a second. Right there. I'm going to go to File, Browse in Bridge. Again, if that doesn't work, you can always click on the BR. Right up here is folder 5, Melonhead Add. And I will go to Head Shapes. Even though he is green, I'm going to start with this. I think it has more of a simpler, rounded look. So I'm going to double click. It's on a white background. So all you need for most of these is your magic wand. You're going to click on the white, turn your selection inside out, inverse it, go to your move tool, move it up, and drop it in. Command T to transform, and if you want to distort it, hold your Shift key. So I can hold Shift and squeeze it down like this. If I don't hold Shift and I drag a corner, it'll just be proportional like that. So I kind of want to line it up with the bottom of his nose right there. It's about the same width. You see it right about there. Now I hold Shift and I bring it down, kind of shape it more into a ball, like around there. And I'll hit return. But I don't want the shaded side to be right next to his face. So Command T, I go outside and I can rotate that object right there. Maybe we'll set it down like that so the underside of his nose is shaded, giving it a more rounded look. And I'll hit return. And I've got this little element right here, this red shape for the mouth. So once the melon is done, I can click on it, close it, File, Browse in Bridge, and I might take a little piece of the pomegranate. Okay, I'll double click on that. And I don't need the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is take my quick selection tool, and I'm going to click and drag it inside the pomegranate, quickly selecting these colors. Go around like that, maybe half of the pomegranate right here. That looks pretty good. Oops, got the whole thing. Okay, not a problem. I'm going to take my move tool, drag what I've selected all the way up, drop it in. Wow, that is huge. Okay, that is way too big. So I'm going to hit Command and minus a couple of times. Okay, I'm going to tuck that under, Command T, and then I just pull this down so I can see a corner. I got to pull it way down, then pull the image back in, pull it way down there. Now I can hit Command and plus to zoom back in a little bit. Go outside and I can rotate it. Maybe I want it rotated that way. Okay, maybe around there. I'll hold Shift key and I can squeeze it down like that. So it's more of this oval type of shape right there. We'll squeeze it down a little more and rotate it. So I'm getting just a little bit of the mouth. Hold Shift and I can squeeze it a little bit more. And that's going to look pretty good. It's not going to match Yoshi exactly, and that's not the point. I'm giving it my interpretation of this character. So I'll hit return. We turn that off, and now he's got a little mouth, little red mouth sitting there. All right, let's close that pomegranate. We don't need that anymore. And I'm going to do the center of his eyes right here. Okay, so we'll do these little pupils. So I'll go to File, Browse in Bridge, and I'm going to come right up here to folder number 5, Original Fruit Pieces. Okay, maybe I want these blueberries. I'm going to take my quick selection, quickly drag through a blueberry. you gotta switch to your move tool and you can move it up. Wait a second and drop it in. Okay, Command T, and if I want to distort it, I hold my Shift key to squeeze that into an oval. Let go of the Shift key and I can resize it proportionally right about there. That looks pretty good right there. I like that. I'll hit return. I like that. If I wanted to see my original scan, I just turn it off. Notice there's a little highlight right here in his eye. I don't need to do every detail, but I like the little highlight. So I'm going to close this blueberry. Don't need it anymore. Go to Browse and Bridge, and let's grab the lemon slice. Okay, with my quick selection again, I'm going to click and drag inside the boundaries of this lemon slice right here, just inside the rind and all the way through the middle. Take my move tool and move it up. Drag it back in. Command T to transform, and I'm going to squeeze that down, lift it up, squeeze it down, lift it up, squeeze it back down, and now I can hold my Shift key to distort that into a little more of an oval like we're seeing in the highlight right there. Okay, and I want his highlight in his eye to be right about there. But that doesn't look bright like a highlight. So what I can do with any photo is take that image of that lemon slice, make some adjustments to the levels. Okay, this levels reads 3 values: the darks, the midtones, and the lights. So if I drag this white slider to the left, my lemon slice will get lighter and lighter and lighter, like a highlight. I can drag the midtones to the left and brighten this up. So we see just a little bit of texture there. Okay, I like that look. Let's say I want the center of his eye to be like a black pupil instead of blue on blue. So I'm going to come back down to the layer, and if you don't know what layer you are on, you have your move tool and you have a button called auto select. So even if I'm way up here, but I wanted to work on the blueberry and I haven't named my layers because I'm going to have so many layers, it's not even worth it. I just click and you'll notice it jumps down to the layer for me. Okay, if I wanted to darken in the center of his eye, I would go right above the type tool, press and hold on my toning tools, and I have a burn. Control and Option will make this a little smaller. And now I click and drag, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, and I burn in the center of his eye like that. So I make it a little darker. If I wanted like a highlight, like you can see right here on his eye, I would go, instead of the burn, go with the dodge. Just make it really small, click and drag, add a little dodged highlight right there. A little highlight in his eye right there. There we go. Gives his eye a little more detail. Okay, I needed 2 different layers to make this eye, but notice I got the same eyeball right there. So here's what I can do. If I like this relationship of this lemon slice and this blueberry, the lemon and the blueberry, I click on the lemon slice. If you're not sure, just turn off the eyeball so you know that's the layer you're working on. Shift click the layer below it, and on your pop-up for your layers panel, always in the upper right corner, you can merge those 2 layers together. So now they are permanent. They move as one. Okay, I can merge layers. Command J will duplicate a copy. You can see it right there. And now I can just move the copy over. So now he's got 2 eyes. Let's turn off our scan. And that's what my character is looking like so far. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more areas. So let's say we want to fill this white area of his eye. Okay, I'm going to fill that with the same melon, but that's a really interesting shape to fill. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take my lasso tool and I'm going to make a selection around this eye. So this case, I'm just going to click and drag and kind of trace out this eye shape right here. So we'll come around, click and drag up, and we'll go up and over. And unfortunately, you got to do this all in one step. So I'm going a little slower so I can get this done right. Right there. Okay, that's the shape I want his eye to be. I'm going to close up this lemon slice and we're going to go open the melon again. So File, Browse in Bridge. I'll come back up to Folder 5, Folder 4, and there's my melon again. Take my magic wand, click on the white, select an inverse. So now I have the melon, and remember you got to switch tools. Go to your move tool, but here's the key. You do not want to move this because all you're going to do is move it up and then drop it in. That doesn't look like an eyeball at all. Okay, so let's go to edit and undo that. If I have selected where I want that melon to go, all you have to do is select the object like I've done here, edit and copy the object. Now when I come over here, if I want it to go in this space, I go to edit menu, paste special, and paste the melon into the selection. There we go. If that covers the center of the eye, I'll just pull this layer way down. Right there. If I wanted this to look white like an eyeball, image menu, adjustments, let's go black and white. I can take the yellows and make them brighter right there because the melon was a lot of yellow in it. And there we go. I've got a white eyeball. Cool. That is it. You can see how he's starting to come together here. So let's turn on my scan and notice how we've got another eye sitting behind that. So again, in order to move an object, this is really important. Notice if I take my move tool and try to move the eye, it's just going to tear it right out of that selection. That selection is like an open window. Okay, so what I have to do is put that eye where I want it, right about there. In between this object and the layer mask, there is a blank space. This is really important. You want to click this blank space and add a chain to link the photo to the layer mask. So now they will move together. Okay, really important. If I want to copy, I hit Command J, move the copy down. And the problem is when I go to click, it's going to keep popping the other eye. Okay, so what I have to do, we'll undo that. Let's just delete this and do it again. On this layer, I hit Command J, move it first, then pull it underneath. So I can kind of tuck it underneath right there. Okay, we'll put it right there. If I wanted a little more shadow, here's what I can do. I can click this chain and unlink the photo from the little window. And now notice I can move the photo. Let's see, nope, that's still going to move the whole darn thing. And I don't want to do that. That's because I'm on the wrong side. Edit, undo. I got to be on the left. The left side is the photo itself. So now I can move my photo. May have a little more shadow in the eye right there. Okay, it gets a little tricky, but it's going to take some practice. So you might screw up a few times, and that's what I probably expect you to do. That's why this is an introduction. Okay, play around with the program. That's what I want to see you do. Be creative with it. Turn this off, and now he's got two eyes. He's looking good. He's coming together. What I would do is constantly save your progress as you go. Call this last name, first name, Melonhead, and then continue from that point. Okay, so I'm going to do just a couple more elements right here just to show you. Let's say we want to do, his hand. Okay, and I'll zoom in. Right away, when I look at this fingertip, it reminds me when I go to Browse in Bridge, and again, if that doesn't pop up, you can click BR. It reminds me in folder 5 here, I've got folder 5 original fruit pieces and these little baby tomatoes. Okay, they're on a simple colored background, so I can take my quick selection, click and drag through a baby tomato, switch to my move tool, and I can move it up and drop it in. Command T, I can shrink it. I can go outside and rotate it right there. And I kind of like that, at least for the fingertips. I like how they're a little more rounded. That looks kind of cool. But I don't like how the bottom half is. Okay, so what I can do is totally manipulate the shape of this baby tomato by going to Filter, Liquify. And what that does is it brings me into this Photoshop filter. Let me shrink this down so you can see it on my demo here. And it shows me this button called Show Backdrop. If I turn that off, all I'm going to see is my little baby tomato. Okay, and I can't tell where to manipulate the shape of this. So I'm going to say Show Backdrop. Kind of see a ghosted image. Right up here is a button called Forward Warp. So when I click on that, I'm going to hold Control and Option, make my brush by dragging to the left a lot smaller. Got to have a more manageable brush tip like that. And what this Forward Warp does is it treats your photos like clay. So I can pull it and manipulate the edges and pull the edges out like shaping a sculpture. So I'm just going to keep manipulating that. And I'll manipulate this side right here, pull it out, keep pulling that out. And I'll turn off the backdrop in a second to show you what I've done right there. So now I've reshaped and liquefied a baby tomato. So I can pull this down a little bit more. Have it shrink in a little shadow right there. And I'll click OK. There's a finger. If I wanted a copy of this, Command J, drag your copy. Command T, rotate your copy. We'll put it right in there. Hit return. And we'll do it. Let's manipulate that edge a little bit more. Filter and liquify. Show my backdrop, and I can zoom in again. Right there. Take my forward warp. We'll just move that finger, make it a little bit thicker out here. Pull this edge down. Thicken up that finger a little bit more right there by liquefying it. There we go. Command J, we'll duplicate it again. Command T, and I'll rotate that finger again. Right about there. Okay. Let's take this one. I'm going to click on it one more time. Command J to duplicate, and we'll pull it down to a thumb. Command T, and I can rotate that. I'll put it right in there, kind of like that. Okay, how do I make all of these fingers kind of blend into the hand? So what I need is these fingers to be nice and long. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, filter and liquefy it. And I got to make sure the tips of the fingers are long, like that. Okay, they got to be long. Click, filter, liquefy, and we'll drag that one down into the hand. Click, filter, liquefy, and we'll drag that one down right there. All right, good, because I'm going to use these to blend them into a hand. So now I'm going to come back to the baby tomato and we're going to do this one more time. Take my move tool, drag it up, drop it in. I'll tuck that underneath the other baby tomatoes right here. Command T and I can rotate it underneath right there. Maybe shrink it down a little bit. His hand is kind of like this ball shape going into his arm right there. And I want to bring that down a little bit more right there. Okay, that's going to look pretty good. I want a little bit more there, so I'm going to hit return, filter, and liquify. And I'll just pull this corner out just a little bit more right there. So it kind of fills up that space. That's looking good. But I want the fingers to blend into his hand. So here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to click on his thumb, add a layer mask. It's the third button from the left. Every time you add a layer mask, D for default, X for black. And with my brush, I'm going to take a soft edge brush. I hold Control and Option and drag down. Oops, up. Down is a hard brush, up is a soft brush. There we go. Start with a soft brush and just scrape away the bottom edge of the thumb like that. So that's why I needed the fingers to be long. So I have room to blend them in. Command key, click on the next finger. Command for my move tool, click. Now I'm on the next finger. If you're not sure, just turn off the eyeball like that. Create a layer mask, D and then X, and I'll scrape away that bottom part right there. Make it blend in. Command click, add a layer mask, D and then X, and I'll blend the bottom edge of that finger right there. Command click, add a layer mask, D for default, X for black, and I'll fade the fingers back into his hand. Like that. So now let's turn off my scan, and there we go. It's got the nice bulbous little frog-like fingers. So you can see what some of the possibilities are. Now keep in mind, Yoshi is green. I haven't even worried about that yet. I'm not worried about that at this point. What I need to do is just build my character. Okay, when I'm done building him, then I will worry about the colors. So if I build a hand and I really like that hand, I can click, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, all the layers for the hand. Go to my pop-up menu in the upper right and merge those layers together. So you can see he's just got one big hand. Now I can edit that color by going to Image, make some adjustments to the hue and the saturation of that hand. If I don't want it to be yellow, I change the hue. Drag it into the greens, maybe darken the green a little bit, saturate it a little bit more. And there he's got his green hand. It's not that hard. Okay, piece of cake. I can click on this melon, do the same thing. Image adjustments, and I would do this at the end, not right now, but image adjustments, hue and saturation. Drag my hue to the right. Drag my saturation in. Darken it a little bit more, so it has that darker feel, that heavier green. And I can get pretty close to matching those. Okay, you can see the possibilities that are available here. I've got Yoshi started. Like I said, I'm not going to do the whole thing. That gives you some ideas. You've got plenty of objects to choose from. If you wanted a different background, go out to Safari. I'll just close this. And let's say I wanted a Mario Brothers background. So I'll just type in Mario Brothers game background. And let's see, okay. What I want to do, since I want that to be my entire background, I'm going to go to Tools, Size, Large. I want large images that are going to be big enough to fill the whole space. And since Yoshi is a lot of green, I don't want to pick more green. So I'm going to pick something like this one. We'll just go with the first. Control click on the image. Open my image in a brand new tab. It shows up right above. There it is. If I get the magnifying tool, click. I want to zoom in and pick the biggest image I can get. I drag and drop onto Photoshop, so I'll let go right there. Drags it into Photoshop. I don't need my baby tomatoes. That's why I want to close up these tabs when I'm done with them. And now with my move tool, like everything else, drag it up, drop it in. I can move that layer all the way down, right on top of my gradient. I don't need the gradient. Okay, Command T to transform, and I'll just pull the corners. It's a horizontal image, so I got to make it really big and horizontal like that. You know, you're going to skip all the rest of this just to see the parts you want to see. So now I can kind of move it over right there. And I kind of like the bricks at the bottom there. And I hit return. Okay. If I wanted this background to kind of fade out, I don't want to see this detail as much as I want to see my character. I can apply filters like filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I can crank this up just a little bit to kind of soften up the background right there. So we see our character. We don't really worry about what's in the background. That's not the important part because I didn't make that anyway. Okay, and here's some of the other possibilities. Notice my text. It started off as orange text, and I just now put it on orange bricks. Doesn't look very good. You can't read it. Okay, and I don't like this tagline, fruit in disguise. I want to click and move it up to the top. But it doesn't look good in that color. So notice on the type layers, there is a lock. I have locked right up here the blank parts around that type. All the blank parts of that layer have now been protected. Okay, so if I wanted this type to be white, I would click right here, D for default colors, hit the letter X, and I'll switch to white. And now to try to fill in this layer, I hit Option key and the big delete key. That means fill with foreground color. In my case, the foreground color is white. If I wanted this type at the bottom, let's say to be this bright green, I'll find that other type. Let's see, right there, with no sugar added. I'm going to take my eyedropper and sample this bright, bright green. Option key and delete. And now I've made that type a different color as well. Okay, so you can see the possibilities here. I'm going to run through a couple of the other photos here. So again, it's File, Browse in Bridge. This is on a clean background. You can easily select it. Or let's say you wanted this to be a smile. You could take your quick selection, drag just through the banana, and if you accidentally go up into the stem, hold your Option key and subtract or cut off the stem like that. So you don't necessarily have to select the whole thing. Okay, that's what the banana does. You've also got the blueberries, which I showed, the baby carrots. You can instantly just click and drag. Always switch to your move tool when you're ready to move it. Okay, every time you move, it automatically gets its own layer. Automatically, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's see, let's go through a couple more here. File, Browse in Bridge. The lemon slice I've shown you. This is on a white background. The strawberry is on a white background. I tried to put most of them on clean, simple backgrounds. These are not obviously on backgrounds. So if you wanted this little peach, you could just take your quick selection tool, just kind of quickly run through that little peach. Always switch to the move. And I mention that because if you use your quick selection and you stay on it, you're just going to keep selecting more and more. You're not going to be able to move it. Okay, if you switch to your lasso, you're going to move your selection, your empty selection. So just always remember, once you make a selection, go to your move tool to physically move an object. Okay, show you some of the possibilities. Grab images from the web if you want, put them in there. It's your ad. Do whatever you want with the logo, put it there, or I could have it look like it's going into the tube right here, or have it sitting, bouncing around, whatever you want. This is going to be your ad. I want you to be creative with it. If you drop in a background, it's kind of getting in your way. That's a beauty of layers. Turn it off until you need it again. Okay? You can manipulate objects. You can recolor objects. You can transform them. You can create layer masks. You can blend them by using soft paint brushes. There's so many possibilities here. Okay, the only other one that I want to remind you again is when you transform objects and you want them to be a really unique shape, like let's say the sole of a shoe, you can click and drag to draw your own shape, because this is about the shape I want the sole of a shoe to look like. So go right there. Then you go and pick your piece of artwork. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that banana right here. Quick select just the banana. Edit, and I can copy that because I already have a selection made. So the only trick is you have to start on a layer where the eyeball is turned on. Doesn't matter where, you just have to be on a layer where the eyeball is turned on. And go to Edit, Paste Special, Paste Into. Command T, you can rotate it, you can move it, you can resize it. See, it automatically curves with the sole of a shoe as well. That kind of fits in really well. If you wanted the sole of a shoe to be a little darker, you've got a burn tool right there. Control key and Option key makes my brush bigger, so I could just burn in a little shadow right there. Give that some nice dark depth. And if I took my lasso, if I wanted the bright side, just do another one. Just a little bit outside the edge, like right here, almost like a parallel edge. Go up and over. Right around to there. Edit and copy that again. Edit, paste special, paste into. Okay, Command T, rotate that, and maybe I'll flip it all the way around so I have the bright side of the banana right there. And it's going to fill up the shape right there. Okay, and I move that under the previous. So I see just a little hint of the edge as it's tucking out from behind. Image, adjust the levels on that. I can make that edge a little brighter right there. See how that's getting a little brighter compared to the underside of a shoe. I mean, so many possibilities. Okay, hopefully this has showed you what is possible here, and I want to see what you can come up with now that I've given you some basic ideas. Okay, when you're done, you're going to have a bunch of layers. You can just save it as your Photoshop file, but when you turn it into me, you save as, file save as, and you save your files as JPEGs. Those are small, compacted files that are easy for me to grade. Good luck. I look forward to seeing what you can come up with. That way I can have some really cool ideas to show future classes in the coming years. Look forward to seeing what you come up with.